Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last session of the day of Are We There Yet? And my non-camera comrades are Conlan Rios, who is responsible for the programmable art platform called Async Art, and there he is showing up, and Vax Zine, who is a crypto artist and also is responsible for the Hive Collective. And last but most important to me is Sparrow, who is also a crypto artist and a very important figure in our community of crypto art.
I'm a member of TXU.
She's a member of TXU, which is a small collective of about 5 or 6, 7, 8, 10 people making art pieces together. One of them is featured on Async as a collaborative piece. And we are here today to talk about a topic which was proposed by Vex. What does a decentralized art world feel like? So I'm going to hand this question first to Sparrow, and then we'll take it from there.
So
I'm turning off my camera.
Me first.
Yes.
What does a decentralized art world feel like? So to me, the key word in all of that is the feeling bit, because I think, for me at least, that's part of the thing that's been lost in the traditional art world, is that feeling of connection between a person and the artwork, between person to person. And it is something that I've found in this crypto art community, that feeling of there's lots of different things going on and there's lots of people doing different things. And that all of those different things are moving things in a direction, not maybe intentionally or in an organized fashion. That's where the decentralized bit comes in. There's not one person in control of any of this, but everybody's doing their little bit. And with everybody doing their little bit and communicating with each other, we're actually going really fast in a particular direction. So for me, that's the feeling bit is the important bit, because it's missing in the traditional art world. But we've got it here, and everybody's going to want that.
Vax, do you want to follow up?
Well, my follow-up might be a little, just a kind of a statement of what I was intending whenever I asked the question. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
So when you just break down the question, like what does a decentralized art world feel like? And yeah, the feeling part is essential to the question, because really that's all that's going on in the real art world, which is a plurality. It's more of a multi-world experience where every artist has their own world. So in actuality, there is no single art world, just like there's no single feeling. But it's kind of like what we have is a living planet that's filled with people that are creating, and they're celebrating the creation of art. But if we are to have any form of a rational discussion about the art world, that's to say the art world, right? Then we need to first attempt to reach a consensus around what exactly this thing that we are referring to as the art world, what is it? So to me, the art world exists because of a dance. It's a tango, and it's involving two partners, art and economics. So this is what the art world is to me. And it has very little to do with artists themselves. If anything, actually, I don't think it has anything to do with artists. The artist standing in their studio around a bunch of paintings and instruments and cameras and computers and paint and pictures and candles and light beams filled with dust, forgetting to eat and forgetting to go outside and pay their bills or to sleep or talk to anybody. That's not the art world. That's their world. That's artist world. So it's something you really can't put a price on, but it's a fully fledged economy in its own right. If you think about the true definition of the term economy as implied by the Greeks, being the management of a household. So the art world has very little to do with the practice of creating art, which we're getting back into the feeling. Like, why are we even showing up to do this today? Because really, this is just a medium, and artists are collaborating right now. We're using video and network technology to come together and amalgamate this type of like frequency conglomeration. And then we're transmitting and we're receiving data, and anyway, we're biocomputers processing this parallel experience that we're all agreeing to have. So what's actually going on, is to say, like, the art world has a great deal to do with financialized speculation of human culture. So the art world is nothing more than an under-regulated yet totally rigged casino where the titans of industry get together to use their personal monetary power to shape the cultural narratives of humanity. And of course, the art world has been the place that is often used to launder ill-gotten gains. We're starting to see that in the crypto game too. Not just with cryptocurrencies, but now you can see it's easy to run a lot of money through OpenSea because it's completely, it's not regulated. There's no KYC, AML yet. Of course, it's going to come. They're going to do the same thing that they did with crypto, the currency. They're going to do that to crypto art and any security. So anyway, when I propose the question, what does a decentralized art world feel like? I have to take a few steps back and attempt to put into context my use of the word decentralized. Obviously, me and Duncan could throw down on that because you can really extrapolate. What is decentralization anyway? But I only have 5 minutes. So it's like, I'd love to unpack the term with anyone that's interested. Like, we can continue talking about this. And after we chop that word up, we're going to need to take a closer look at what the word art means when using the term, inside of the word art world, that term. Like, what is art? So, but that discussion may very well require the rest of our lives. And that dialogue is where I believe all of the feeling resides. It's in the process, the actual making of art. So we don't really need to talk about it. But a lot of people make a ton of money doing just that, which I get, in terms of keeping the art world moving full steam ahead. So are we there yet? My answer is, who are we? Artists live there, which is here, and we're deep inside of it, constantly reinventing our worlds. And the art world will never be there, just like the world will never be there. Our worlds, the omniverse of art, all I can say is, feels good, man. And keep creating worlds, inside of worlds, inside of worlds, inside of dreams, dreaming dreams, inside of dreams, dreaming dreams. That's all I got to say about that. There's more to talk about, but
I think so. I think you have a lot going on. Can we take a little pause?
Yeah, I just want to.
I want to get Conlan going. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Sorry,
So, isn't it up to us, the artists, to redefine and recreate the art world on our terms? Don't leave it to them. Why give up that? We're creating it. Why give them control of it?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is it already exists. And I don't think the art world, I don't think they're ever, like, if you can identify what the art world is, like, it's just limiting what's actually going on. Like, it's like what Duncan and Eli were talking about, how basically light is, there's no light tower. It's just simply light. And then darkness is the absence of light. So you just have these photons, and that's really all we are, is these concentrated energy vessels, transmitting, receiving. Anyway, Conline.
Yeah, this is super interesting. And I can only comment on it as a collector, because I'm not an artist myself. But I guess mine is just more on like when I see the title, what does decentralized art world feel like? Decentralized art world. I guess to me it's decentral. As soon as you start that, you're inherently starting from a digital medium. So like because it's decentralized, you can't. I mean, you're communicating with other artists and other collectors. So already you're doing it in a digital medium. So your art is going to be digital. Your communities are probably going to be digital and virtual. But I think it also means that the decentralized art world is more inclusive because you're not limited to physical space. You're not limited to just the collectors around you or the artists who collaborate around you, right? You have a physical studio, you have traffic, people who walk by. Now you're actually opening up to a global, literally anyone in the world can come by your gallery and buy art and collaborate with you on it. So I think it's from my point of view, it's nothing but good for everyone involved. It's kind of taking like the internet, basically for content creators, is basically saying if you're a content creator, the internet is going to make it so that whoever wants to enjoy your content hopefully can find your content. Like, the platforms, their job is to basically connect you up with the one person or the two people or the 10 people who enjoy your content. And so decentralized art world to me suggests that that's the same idea, which has never happened before in history, in human history yet.
I would like to add to that two things. First is that yet that last point you just made, that it's never happened in the history of the art world. I have to also say that, like, and this is something that has been true for quite a while, is that never in the history of the world has so much art been made in such a short period of time. Like, yeah. You're talking, and it's an interesting thing to think about, because you have to think about what enables that, and what does it mean in the larger picture. I would almost argue, when I was thinking about the other day, when I was thinking about the title of this talk, I almost think that artists are inherently decentralized.
Yeah, totally.
Because unlike a corporation or a company, you're always alone. You might be in a community, but you're inherently, like, you're an individual. You may have people helping you. You may be financially successful as an artist, that you have a studio, but you're inherently an entity, and it's inherently agent-centric. It's you interacting with people directly, maybe not through intellectual. So actually, the art world, in a way, is not about art. I would completely agree with that. It's just it was and still is a system of connecting artists with collectors, and with other artists potentially. Mm-hmm. But now it's almost like there are platforms, obviously, and Async is pushing this to a new level, I think. But a lot of the platforms, there are platforms that are completely open. I bring Rarible as a perfect example, and Mintable, and it's completely revolutionary in the sense that anybody can say, okay, this piece has value. It may or may not get sold, and that's another whole other discussion we can talk about. But it's definitely, I can go and do this. Anybody can go and do this, and it really cracks open a window that was not there before, for sure. Yeah.
There's other exchanges of value going on, though, mm-hmm. besides just monetary exchange.
Absolutely.
So, defining it as a market and talking about, the exchange of money is only telling a part of the bigger picture that I see happening now, right? The exchange of value that we get between exchanging ideas in situations like this. There's real value being exchanged here now. Mm-hmm. And you don't quantify that with money.
Right, right. That's why I say it's not the art world, because the art world is all about economics. That's all it is. There is no like what's going on here is simply magic. That's all it's ever been, and it's been.
But
with
we can redefine that as the art world because we are the artists.
Well, I think we would do a disservice to magic if we were to try and label it as the art world, because everything is art. Like growing a garden, having sex, creating children. It's magic. And I think that the art world is pure economics. That's all it is. But so what is a decentralized art world? That's exactly what's going on. We are we are the nodes, and we're the receivers and transmitters of frequencies. And so our creations are what form the energetic threads. So that's what's emitting in many ways. It's like a mirror, a concentration of curated vibrations. It's in the form of color, light, shape, and sound. Photons. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is you can see that what's happening is there's this extension of the art world into these new technologies, and you're going to have the same narrative repeating itself. In other words, here's an elite class of developers and creators, and that's where all the attention will be concentrated. But if we create a truly distributed, a truly decentralized, in other words, a representation of what is already going on, that's going to require, like Duncan was saying, this acknowledgement of light. Mm-hmm. So we don't necessarily need these technologies. We really just need to continue to create art. But the moment we begin to, put everything on chain and then crypto economize it or financialize it, it's going to, we're going to do it. Of course, it's already happening, but people are going to exploit that. So how do you regulate it? That's the thing.
I think one of the things is also, I agree with you on that. I think that there is something about the idea of the token, which I think maybe is misused and misinterpreted. Like when someone says a token of my affections, it's not about the art. Like it's sure, yes, the art, someone spent 7 hours on this piece and maybe 15, 20 hours, and they've assembled this symphony of light, basically, and they post it somewhere, and then they have to produce another one, obviously, because they're a living and breathing organism. And so the reward is the creation, and the reward for others, it's the seeing of it. And then how it's distributed, I think, is still up for discussion. I think there's a lot more that can be played with in terms of shared value, and like value flows, and it could be so much more elaborate and complex and colorful than it currently is. It's not elaborate enough yet. Like we need like wonderful patterns of flows where everybody gets to feel this thing, like, I mean, Instagram is such a narrow little like thing, like there's so many other ways you could feel that. And I don't think maybe as humans, we're just not capable of feeling that thing.
So that Dapper Labs' new blockchain project to do NFTs is called Flow, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know if you knew that, Ilan.
Shit. Yeah, I mean.
So they're a step ahead of you, at least name-wise.
Well, flow has been a buzzword amongst certain artists in my circles, dating back to like the early aughts. There was a lot of talk about flow, So and I don't know what that actually meant, but there was a lot of talk about. People were labeling their performances and some of the works that were about flow, I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know if what Dapper Labs is trying to do is capture that idea, you know,
I think it's
or
just a name.
I think it is a name. So I think that's another kind of yeah, it's a tricky thing. Like it's another kind of
I mean,
form of
ultimately,
monetization of it. No,
it might end up being better, right? Because it's designed for non-fungible tokens rather than having non-fungible tokens retrofitted onto a blockchain that was made for fungible tokens, right?
I think their use of flow is referring to blockchain is like a flow. It's kind of like a river that's flowing beside you, and you can just basically, you know, you can put a little boat in and it's moving. But that's what the chain is. It's just constantly moving, and it's just constantly pushing events, but it's permanent. So that's what that suggests to me.
I'm wondering though if the like where the missing link is this idea of a circulation of material. Like maybe like I don't think there's enough experimentation in circulatory ownership, for example. You know, like I think that for example, additional was that one. That was one project where it really because they made the whole blockchain, they just made it transparent all of a sudden. And so all of a sudden, you know, people were jumping on there and just grabbing things. And then you would say, oh, and then I would say, oh, I have I'm gonna do this thing and I'm only doing 5 of these. Hey, Benny's there. Hey, Benny. and then people would be excited to grab the one that they could get because they knew it was limited, you know. So even though they knew there would be more, they were really eager. So me and Marco and Lipti were like, oh, I didn't get yours, you know. And I haven't had that feeling since then. Since they shut down, I haven't had that feeling at all. Like I can't afford what Lipti publishes, and likewise, he can't really afford what I'm putting out either, because you know we're all trying to maximize our utility value. So in a way, the system is already broken somewhat. The only way I can really trade anything with, say, Sparrow, and I have a little kind of, you know, hey, I'm going to make this thing. You can want one? And then I go, yeah. And then but that really takes trust, you know, on some level.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm nothing. I think we need more of that, is what I'm saying. I think we need to liberate the system so that there is more of that. I think that's.
But that's building relationships, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
If someone doesn't know me or has never spoken to me, they wouldn't ask, hey, would you want this? Or I wouldn't know to ask them, would you want this?
Right.
Right? It takes the relationships, and for me, those connections, the relationships that you build are the key to everything that we're doing here, right? Because they're the foundation that lets us do all of these other things. If we didn't have those kinds of relationships, if we didn't have TXU as a group, we would have never done the async piece. Right? We wouldn't have done that on our own individually. That would have never existed.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that we were a group.
I came back in. So I find myself talking with hands, and then I'm like, oh, you know, you're not seeing this. Why am I even doing this?
I still talk with my hands, whether you see or not.
I know. Yeah, I think that the problem is it's still. I think there is an element that has where that building relationships takes some time. Like even for me, like I know Sparrow, like you're much more prolific in jumping around different metaverses than I am by a long shot, and it takes me a long time to get to those places, you know. And in a way,
people see me and they go, "You're everywhere."
You are. You're the ultimate metaverse lady.
Not by far.
Yeah. So I mean, I wish there was some way to have like, I wish I was seeing more like more I don't know, somehow informal ways. Duncan is saying is talking about a counterparty, but I mean, I have to say about my problem with counterparty is it's not as easy to use as, say, MetaMask at this point, you know, and MetaMask is not easy to use, you know. So I think there's also maybe there's a lot of barriers in that way, but also like, you know, when you do spend about 7 hours of your time on an artwork, it's always hard. It's harder to like want to say, okay, I'm just going to give it away. Although sometimes when I make something that I feel is very valuable and no one wants to buy it, I just donate it to the TCBA because I feel like that I know it has value there.
Yeah.
You know, or I'll gift it to Mattia, or I'll gift it to someone else I meet, and it's fun to see new people come in because then it's like kind of fresh blood, you know, and like so that's been interesting on that level.
Yeah, one thing about additional, going back just a bit, is yeah, I did like how it was very easy to tokenize. I mean, it was almost too easy, but you could tokenize anything. You could take a snapshot and tokenize it.
Yeah,
instantly.
it was too easy.
But it was interesting because like that was the only platform, as far as I know, that really encouraged you to tokenize even moments. Like you look at a flower in the garden and you just tokenize it. It doesn't mean that has to have value. Like maybe going back to your thing of like, you know, we're always trying to extract as much value out of ourselves as artists and collectors. It's like, maybe it's only because the only platforms that are available right now are kind of marketplaces and stuff. Like additional is really just trying to say, I mean, you could buy additionals, but really is just trying to say, hey, just tokenize whatever you want. And we shouldn't be afraid of that, because I know there was a whole thing around people are tokenizing other people's art and, you know, people are getting scammed. But realistically, like, yeah, we need to educate people more around looking at where the token came from, because if that becomes second nature first, like, okay, double check, where does this come from? Then we won't be afraid of tokenizing anything, like a fleeting thought, an image, you know what I mean? Like, it is interesting to think about everything being tokenized, because that'll allow people to have circulate ownership. Like if the only thing we tokenize are really valuable artwork, then yeah, people aren't going to circulate ownership. They're not going to experiment with these new ownership models. They're going to keep to the old world model of like, I want to hoard as much as possible. But when we tokenize things like me just drinking a cup of coffee, then it's like, yeah, I'll just give that to someone and just sort of, you know, and maybe it takes life of its own. But we only get there when we actually start tokenizing just whatever we want and not being afraid of copyright issues, or is it going to sell?
The copyright issue is kind of interesting, and I don't know why we're getting into it here, but I just want to note that I think it's less of an issue than people think of it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I think because it's a very much of a self-correcting system where people have been reporting, and like it's really an open, like it's like, oh, everybody's like, I'm outraged. I see something copyright. I'm reporting it. Yes, and you're doing the job.
And that's exactly what needs to happen.
And that's exactly what needs to happen. It's so funny how
you're never going to prevent it.
Yeah.
You know, stop it from happening completely.
Yeah.
It will always happen.
Yeah.
As long as there is a system in place to correct it.
Yeah.
We're good.
Someone said, just write gas fees.
That's fair. Yeah. So for the tokenized and everything, it is expensive. Yeah, the gas fees. So this current solution probably
you didn't pay gas. They paid the gas.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's their money.
That's why they're not around.
Their loss.
But
actually.
But imagine this as a model. Imagine kind of like Cent, how you can seed a creator. Maybe the system is like, I like this creator. I want to seed them to tokenize whatever they want. And now like that system would allow me to cover their gas fees. Like I'm going to give you 100 tokenizations, and now you can just go around tokenizing whatever you want. Because yeah, I'd be interested in what some artists would tokenize if they could just freely snap parts of their life and tokenize. Maybe platforms like YouTube and Twitch and stuff could be tokenizing their streams at the end of like this could be tokenized. If maybe Crowdcast at the end of every stream should just tokenize that. Just get used to everything being tokenized and tradable. And
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, Vax, continue. Sorry.
Okay, well, I just want to interject because the word tokenization is subject to de-evolution. I mean, I don't think we're going to be saying tokenized in the next 5 years. I think that we're going to say programming. We're going to be talking about the programming of creations. And obviously, there's work that's been done on this prior to async that is not doing what async is doing. It's actually talking about the programmability of anything. And so tokenization is pure economics. So that's why I don't say anything about tokenizing art. I think that's an absurd way to go about describing what's going on here. in terms of the artist. We're simply archiving canonically our creations that hopefully shall live due to technology unto perpetuity as a canonical resource that future humans can research, and not in terms of speculation, but in terms of understanding what the fuck happened here. And so 100 years from now, it would be great to have another thing, you're implying gas fees, that we're even going to have gas fees. That's just a term that was created within the Ethereum ecosystem. So that's arbitrary. Those words aren't going to be used in 5-10 years. We're not going to be talking about gas fees or tokenization. We're going to be talking about, on-chain, maybe. I don't even think we'll be even using that word. I think we're going to be using canonical data spheres that are programmable and interoperable, and they're interoscillatory in the sense that anything can communicate with anything, being a machine or human. Anyway, I just had to interject on that because
no, it's great. It's great.
Distracted.
Great interjection. You were very quiet. I was a little bit worried if you had fallen asleep or something.
Well, yeah, I was asleep.
Getting a little technical here.
Wait, no.
Yeah. It's good. This is an interesting point about the future. Like also like in terms of deprecation. Like we had a discussion. We have a discussion. Sarah and I and my wife had a discussion about what happens when Ethereum 2.0 finally comes about, and then you're going to have 2 blockchains, and you're going to have 2 of everything,
right?
And then what happens to the previous ones that were, if I tokenized like a cat, a drawing of a cat, and then that cat is now there's 2 of them, one that's Ethereum 1.0 and the one that's Ethereum 2.0, and does the old one have as much value as the new one? And like these are things that what happens when you have Ethereum 10? Like how it's there's a short story about deprecation that this guy wrote. The guy who wrote the book Arrival, who wrote the story for Arrival originally, and this is a story about this kind of VR world where they have these little like little virtual pets. And then what happens when that those pets are no longer, that world becomes unpopular, drops away, and the pets can't go into other worlds because they need to have their code upgraded or changed. They need to be reassembled for that new world where everybody is, where all the action is now. And as human beings, we can just go to another Discord channel or something, but our art may not be able to do that. I think it doesn't bother me. I don't see, but if you're an investor, and that's really a thing that really fucks you up, because then it's like all of my stuff is gone. But I think Josie noted that as long as she's alive, she'll be moving her assets, her drawings into the new system. So I guess if you bought her stuff on Ethereum or Bitcoin, whatever, if it's deprecated, I'll just move it to the thing. But which I think is what we would all do. I don't know if I'd want to do that. I think I'd want to create new stuff at that point. But it's an interesting question that it doesn't come up a lot, to be honest. Maybe because for artists it's sort of irrelevant, really. You're like, oh, just make my stuff. I'll just make new stuff. I'll just put it on the blockchain. But if you're someone and that's kind of in a way like will upend the system in the end, because you'll just say, what the value is with the artists, and not so much the collection part of it. We got your money, haha. A little bit. I don't know.
But they've already had this problem with net art, right? There are obsolete browsers where this art is the only, it will only run in Internet Explorer 1.95 or something, right? So all of these things that people now have painstakingly gone to recreate so that we can see this art again. Maybe that's a task that, there will be an archivist that goes through the blockchain and finds all of these tokens and makes them displayable again.
Right.
Don't know. That's one of the advantages of an open source contract, so that you can know which tokens were created by that contract and trace them. But we're going to end up with that same problem that net art had 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the question is it relevant too? Like, if the system changes to be more about exchange and flow instead of ownership per se, then it's kind of irrelevant, because as long as the person is active, they're creating a flow. You know, like if Alon is still at age 68, still making a drawing every day, and then 10 other drawings once a month, then it's irrelevant, because he needs to eat, and therefore in that flow of him creating things, you know, he's receiving a reward no matter what, because he's proven it to be a constant flow, asset flow.
Value flow.
Energy flow.
Yeah, energy flow. I mean, it's an energy flow. It's like shaping it. It's like shaping energy, basically. You know, like that's what we're doing constantly with words, is we're taking energy and reshaping it. I feel like a discussion is like shuffling the cards, really, all the time. You know, and once in a while you get a joker, and that's usually me.
It's just like when you're making art, if you're making music, you're just reshaping the octahedron.
Yeah.
If you're moving, so you move across the Platonic solids. But if you think about that question when you were talking about Josie questioning, okay, like I'm going to upgrade, or I'm going to transfer my digital assets, whatever you call these things, over to the next technology. Well, she's going to definitely, disincarnate. She's going to become, no longer here, and those creations are going to outlive her. All of our creations are going to outlive us. So this is why the programmability of creations is essential. Now, as far as which protocol we determine, to use, the tech is going to be the thing that kind of like provides the opportunity for artists, creators, and members, participants of the art world, or just the art collective, industry-wise, because you're still going to have an economic model that surrounds these technologies. That's never going to go away. People are going to continue to, because we live in a world where the economics is what enables humans to continue to incarnate on this plane without overpopulation and without all these different. Then you get into the whole race, and you get into the whole eugenics question. You get into the whole these deeper philosophical why are we here questions. Not like are we there yet? Like why are we here? So yeah, we're here, but why are we here? That's a bigger question. And then it's like, so you're going to end up with a distributed world computer, many world computers that are voluntarily, populated by nodes. And these nodes are humans, and they're going to be mining themselves. These are the artists. And then those proofs of creations, that proof of work are going to be testaments of their why they were here. And so that testament will be something that, future humans will mine in order to try and decipher why they are here. Just like whenever we listen to music from 100 years ago, or research paintings from 500 years ago, or look at the cave paintings from however many years ago, we start to ask that question, why are we here? And then it can get kind of like, you get post-physical in many ways. You start to transcend the physical realities and dualities, and you start to, tap into consciousness. And then that's whenever the floor falls out, and, you do you crash through the fourth dimension, you enter that fifth dimensional state that Duncan was talking about, being at the precipice. I mean, artists have already jumped. There's no bottom to the abyss. Literally, there's no bottom. This thing keeps going. And I think that as you continue to descend, you start to realize you can fly, and that's when the ascent happens. And that's when the raising of the energies, comes to full fruition, and you become a master of the self. But anyway, that's magic. Again, you're back into that world of, self-initiation and using art as an alchemical process. And it can be digital art, it can be anything. You sound, anyway. I just think that the programmability is going to come back into play. But as far as which protocol we utilize and the distributed ledgers, data spheres, I've got my ideas on that, but I would much rather build versus like, hey, here's my white paper. Like,
right.
I wrote papers back in 2014 about this when I was working with the Ethereum project, and I found it was better just to build things anonymously and release it. So that's what I intend to do. Well, that's what I'm doing. But yeah.
But ultimately, does it really matter what the delivery mechanism is?
Well,
as long as you're communicating what you want to communicate, that's the key.
Well, it's not the thing about this. So the delivery mechanism is something that's important, but what's important to me, what matters, what it is the canonical aspect of a immutable, perpetual archive. So that's what's important. I don't care if someone discovers my things now, but I would like them to be discoverable by someone that has the will to find these 100 years from now. So what's important is the everlasting nature, this infinite aspect of on chain, or just, some type of archive that's canonical, that would be referred to by everyone eventually. So if there is to be a standard, it would be like, okay, well, everybody goes to Google to search. I mean, even that's not a standard. Wikipedia is not a standard. There's no. So, but could we create a distributed ecosystem? I mean, that was the idea of Ethereum, was could we create the world computer? I think it was just a no, we're not going to be everything to everybody, and we can't. There's going to be many distributed ecosystems that store data, compute data, and transmit data. But ultimately, does it matter? I mean, it has to be defined. And I have my definition of what it is, but it has nothing to do with technology. Well, technology to me means teaching the gnosis. Like that's what technology is to me. It has nothing to do with computers and wires and shit.
Take a break for 1 second. There's a question with 2 votes on it. It says, can any of you elaborate on what you see as the key differences with the creative process pre-crypto, assuming that's what we're defining as a decentralized here? I guess you can all read that question there if you want.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I can jump in. I talk all the time, but anyway, y'all take it for it.
I guess like I could answer this question. I don't see, for me personally, I don't see a difference in crypto, pre-crypto for me in terms of my creative process. Like, I think that's a thing, like that's magic. Like that is the human thing of like, you wake up, you do your thing, you start painting something, it takes you on a journey. You begin the journey, you're somewhere in the middle, you're struggling to find your way through it, you get to the end, and even at the end, you don't really know what the hell you did.
Yeah.
And if it's not, and if, to be honest, if it's not like that, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, yeah, that's it. It's so in a way, to me, it comes naturally, so it's really simple,
Totally.
It's just pure magic. I can't describe it. Like there's no other. Once you tap into that, it's endless. You're endlessly recombination. Once you find your line or your code that you want to play with, it's an endless recombination of your efforts. Leading to a result. Now, the only thing that crypto does for me personally is it just says, here's my thumbprint. I've done that.
Yep.
And you either like it and you want to have ownership of it, or you don't.
Or even celebrate it. They don't even need to own it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, totally. I mean, if you create a gallery in CryptoVoxels, you're celebrating it.
Question for you though, Ellen. Do you think that any of this community that we have here now would exist if it weren't for crypto? As a community artist.
Absolutely.
It existed in punk rock before this.
I think, and this is the thing that actually, when we were talking the other day, when we gathered yesterday to was day before yesterday, just make sure the tech thing was, it came to me in a revelation that what it has created for me personally is community, more than I've ever had in an art scene ever before.
Yeah.
Like it's brought,
Same for me.
You could say it's whatever you could call it, decentralized if you want. But what it's done is it's brought me together with a group of people that I wouldn't have found without the internet. That's done that, and it's spurned me to create in ways that I hadn't done before. Now, would that have happened without that? Maybe slower, maybe fast. Who knows? I don't know, but it happened, and that's a fact, and I can't change that now because of the blockchain.
And I think that comes back to being inherently digital, like pre-crypto versus regular art. Like you have to think about, where is the art going to be displayed? Is it going to be on a site? It's going to be in a virtual gallery, some space. And then already now you're opening yourself up to community, because anyone can now connect up with you, as opposed to if you're in a small town or a city that, or where you're isolated, where you don't have connections to put your art in a gallery, you're kind of blocked out. So,
but one step further than that, though, right? Because I've been
Sure.
in communities of digital artists, and there was always this non-crypto communities. Well, I can't share the full resolution image of my artwork because it'll get stolen, right? I have no, that whole proof of creation that the blockchain gives us has made artists, most artists, more relaxed about sharing and collaborating, because we do have proof that, look, I made this. Here's the blockchain record that says this is the time and date when I made it. Previously, digital artists didn't have that. So if they shared it on a website and that website went away, then they had no proof.
Yeah. I mean, even on Instagram, and to some degree on Instagram, like, because it's so ephemeral, having it tokenized, so to speak, gives it something more precious. I don't understand why. Like, I don't understand why fully when I go to Super Rare and scroll through images or unknown origin, why I want to go, I want to buy that thing. I don't understand that. I don't understand why. Because I can't do that on Instagram. It's almost like it's taking that whole idea of I want this thing and made it and boil it down to its bare essence.
Because human beings are innately collectors.
For scarce, yeah. They like to collect scarce assets.
I mean, I actually, to be honest, I think I've taken pieces from 100 editions, and I'm always delighted that I have the option to grab one, because a lot of things are too expensive and I can't. And there's, I will just, if there was like 100, if there was like 100 of everything,
Elon, that's evolution. If you didn't have that, you wouldn't be here. Right? The feeling of there's berries, there's water here, I got to collect it.
Yeah.
Then that's just evolution.
So I don't know what this is the thing of flows. It's like, I don't know, maybe there's a market where you just at some point you don't own it anymore and it's up for grabs. I would like to see more randomness in the system. This is the thing I like about Dada, for example, is it's a little more randomness. When you draw something, it doesn't X equals Y. You draw something and you contribute to a community, and then you do get a dot. You do go up in the rank of the ranks, but it's not connected to how many likes you did or a number. It's pretty arbitrary. So it'd be really interesting to see an arbitrary market, really arbitrary. I mean, humans are already arbitrary, but even to have it even be more arbitrary.
It's like that Christmas Santa thing where you sent an NFT and got an NFT from the next person that sent an NFT.
Yeah.
And you never knew what you were going to get.
Yeah. I like that.
And then the last person got a bunch of them.
Yeah, I like that.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was great. No, it was totally. I thought that was one of my favorite. I think after Additional, that's probably one of my favorite experiences. Where we're just I was in London riding the tube or something, and just going, oh, I have this app here. I'll just take this thing that I shot off a screen the other day, and I'll make a little thing, and because we're just making glitch art, and then we had a little thing, and it was really that kind of energy,
Yes. No, it's good, right? Because it means it's a break from everything having to be really weighty and really serious, and we should have fun, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I hope so. I think the fun. If it's not fun, I don't want to do it anymore. And I have moments like that. I have to be honest with you. I'm like,
yeah, me too.
It's a. I mean, I think I would define it like creativity, coding, even all these things where you're creating. Even just I've been teaching myself how to play piano. I call it the wall of frustration. You get in there, and every day you do your thing, and you make a little bit of progress, and then you make mistakes, and then you come back and you do it again the next day, and it's not like and then people see the end result, but they don't know the whole story necessarily. So it's a wall. Yeah, it's a wall of frustration. Sometimes I fall off and I get back up on again. And I think it's a great lesson to have that everybody should experience in some level and should be open to having. And maybe the crypto art thing will bring more people into that, still experiencing that thing. Even people who don't call themselves artists.
Yeah. So I was going to answer Duncan's question from my perspective. The token represents the art, right? It's the art to me that is the prime thing. The token is just an appendage to the art rather than the other way around. So for me, when I buy art, I buy the art by purchasing the token. I'm not buying the token and getting a piece of art with it, in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me personally, like when I buy something, it's because it's someone I know, whose work I have seen and is new and is interesting, and I want to show them that they're worth something.
So actually, it's not even so much about the token or the art. It's about the person and what they're doing. Maybe not that particular artwork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me, it's about the person. Absolutely, absolutely.
That's interesting.
I'll let me see. There was one guy. His name is. Hold on a second. I have to get his name. He has a funny name on. Get on my crypto list. Hold on. Give me a moment. Lily says I've gone rogue. Of course, I've gone rogue. This guy named Pejman showed up. He's like from Turkey, I think, from Istanbul. And he makes these really cool, like weird animation things. And so nobody was paying attention. And I was like, this guy's amazing. Like this guy's really like very different, completely different thing from anything I'd seen before. And so I went on there and go no origin, got one. And then he contacted me and then we started talking and that's what I love. That I live for that. Like I live for those moments. Like that, he was like talking to me about, we shared ideas about like the Kabbalah, and he showed me a YouTube video there now. So like, that's what I want. I don't want, oh, thank you for buying my stuff. And like, here's another token. And here's look, I sold another one for 10 ETH. I don't care. I don't care. I care about facilitating more creativity.
And that's why you're my friend.
Yeah. Anyway, that's I just blurted out the most radical thing I could possibly say on a platform about creativity. So I think we should have like closing statements, and then we'll wrap it up because even though this is the last session, Lily's kind of angry. But it was so yes. Let's have the closing statements.
But look at all the discussion that we had.
I know. Damn. Look at that.
It's good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right. So I went first. So I'll go first in the closing statements as well then. So yeah, a decentralized art world feels like a community to me and not a market.
Conlan?
Yeah, I think decentralized art world, it's inherently digital, and it is about community. It's enabling artists to connect up with other artists and their collectors in a way that just wasn't possible in human history before.
Facts?
Oh man. I don't want to piss anybody off, but
you should.
No, go ahead.
Come on. Let's go.
One
Okay.
of us has to be controversial. Come on.
Yeah. I
No,
thought I
I'm
was
not,
being
yeah,
controversial.
that won't be controversial. I was going to be long though. No. Okay. So, so by its very nature, I believe that the practice of art, humans creating culture via the management of their household, is decentralized, like you were saying earlier, Elon. And yeah, I would say if you look at what Andy Warhol did, it's a perfect example. When he created Andy Warhol Incorporated, basically, it was a centralized. He basically centralized his life practice, and produced a household that became the factory. So that's why popular art continues to go up in value even today. And you even see that thread of consciousness in the zeitgeist of what it is to be an artist. Like I don't go around telling people I'm an artist. People assume that as they know me, but I don't think of myself as an artist. I think of myself, well, I won't go into too much about what that is, but it's like you can see that what's happening with pop culture is you're having it extend into the cryptosphere where popular art is becoming speculatory. And so that data is what people are betting on. And it's humans that are basically capitalizing on this, centralization of art as an economic means. And so when you start when you have like developing cultures, look at what we're doing as a developed culture or even a progressively developing culture, you can see that pop art will actually extend into crypto art. And then it's, in my opinion, it won't last though. Popular art will simply blur out because there won't be a means at which there is something to look at to say that is the top art. Like in other words, super rare, known origin, the curation of art, that's going to blur out as we, onboard 100,000 times more creators and creations, because you don't want to forget those things because they're going to outlive the creators, and onto this playing field, whatever it is we call art in the next 25 years. So to me, it's like the art world is gonna explode into many worlds, and then you're gonna have this art, this omniverse of creativity and creation. And so we are going to enter the first true global renaissance in creativity. And is crypto going to spark that and invoke it? Yeah, it already has. But I think that it came from people, largely from American art, honestly, coming forward whenever you look at the first American art movement of just, this whole idea of abstract expressionism coming from the New York school. I mean, it kind of like created this like, avant-garde, just go for it mentality. And that's what we're seeing when you talk about randomness and just creating this ecosystem where anything goes. I think that's what we're going to see. So ultimately, just to cap it up, I think that if we're going to have a decentralized metaverse of art or multiverse of creativity, then one thing is for sure, it can't be, there will be no censorship in that world. And no matter what kind of art a person creates, they are included. To me, in my opinion, like it doesn't matter. It'll be on chain, archivable, and it'll serve as an evidence trail. So if you want to put, things that are controversial or even illegal in certain jurisdictions, there'll be a source of, if law enforcement has to step in and identify who created that creation, regardless of what it is. It could be intellectual property. It could be a design of, some type of weapon. Regardless, it's all going to be on chain within this creation ecosystem. And I think that it should be allowed. Like you can't censor it. It'll always be on chain. You can curate the display of it. But anyway, I could go on and on about this stuff. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sparrow. Thank you, Conlan. Thank you, Vax, for joining us for this discussion. It's been really, really great. I hope we can find a way to connect again at some point in different configurations and different ways. And onward. Tomorrow, just for the people who are here in the audience, tomorrow's first talk is by Greta Ferrer. Ghosting your own project, 4 strategies to deal with your own downsides. And actually it kind of flows nicely from this into that one. It starts at 4 p.m., not 4:30 p.m. if you're in Berlin or in this area of the world. 7 a.m. PDT, 11 p.m. JST. Look forward to seeing you there. Good night, everyone, and good luck.
Awesome.
Good
Thanks.
night. Bye.
Right.